So now we're starting in Perek Gimel Halacha Gimel. Okay, so we're going to read this and we're going to go to a bunch of other places. So ein lecha. So the context is the Perek of Kinyan Torah, where the Rambam's talking about how to get Torah. Ein lecha mitzvah b'chol ha-mitzvos kulan shekula k'neged Talmud Torah. There is no mitzvah among all the mitzvos which is weighed equally. That's how we translated shekula k'neged Talmud Torah, which is weighed equally with Torah education, Torah study. Ela Talmud Torah k'neged kol mitzvos kulan, but rather Talmud Torah corresponds to all the mitzvos. And then why? Talmud mevi l'dei ma'aseh, because learning brings you to action. And earlier the Rambam said learning brings you to action. Action doesn't bring you to learning. That was the way he phrased it. Lefikach, therefore, ha-Talmud kodem l'ma'aseh b'chol makom. Therefore, learning comes before action in every place. Now he gives an example. If you have in front of you a mitzvah to do and Talmud Torah, learning, if the mitzvah can be done by others, lo yafsik talmudo, do not interrupt your learning. Vim lav, but if not, meaning if it can't be done by others, yaseh mitzvah v'yachzor l'Torah. So then you should do the mitzvah and then go back to your learning. Okay, so we're actually going to do the minor issue first, because the other issue is more exciting and philosophically adventurous. Okay, the minor issue is when you have competing mitzvahs. Okay, that's the minor issue. The major issue is the purpose of man. Oh, okay, yeah, Oren. Yeah.
When the Rambam says that learning leads to action, does he mean that in just a simple sense that if you don't learn halacha, you won't know what to do, or does he mean that in some deeper sense?
Good question. Let's think about that fresh when we get into that. Okay, that's a good question. I think we addressed it the first time briefly, but yeah. Okay, so what we did yesterday is we looked at Hilchos Mamrim. So let's go to that now. Vav Yud Gimel, and there the Rambam has a similar halakha by kibud avim. So that's in the one that you opened to, in the book. Vav Yud Gimel. So he says, Amar lo aviv hashkeni mayim. If your father says to you, bring me water to drink, v'yesh biyado lasos mitzvah, and you also have a mitzvah to do. Im efshar lemitzvah shete'aseh al yidei acherim. If it's possible for the mitzvah to be done by others, te'aseh v'yisasek b'kavod aviv. Then you should do the mitzvah and then involve yourself with honoring your father. She'ein mevatli mitzvah mipnei mitzvah, because we don't abolish, negate, cancel one mitzvah because of another mitzvah. But if there is no one else to do the mitzvah, then you should be involved in the mitzvah and then leave aside the kavod of your father. Because both you and your father are obligated in mitzvos. So that's why that takes precedence. And then he just throws in the Talmud Torah gadol mikavod avim. Learning Torah is greater than kibud avim. Okay, why? All right. So the person who clued me into how to understand, so we were trying to figure out what this case is yesterday of like you have a mitzvah to do and like Talmud Torah, and like the example we were working with is, let's say you're learning a night seder and then you get a text from someone that says all the yeshiva welcome should go to like some wedding because no one's showing up, right? Yeah, right. Which is a wedding is going on and like they need more people to make it a simcha event, and like they're just inviting people.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. I guess this has happened several times this year. Yeah.
Right, it happened in I don't know. I didn't know these things.
Yeah.
I went on Israel.
Right. Right. I mean, I guess it happens. Like if it's like Bali Tshuva out of town, right here, I assume some of it might have to do with COVID stuff, like that. Oh yeah. Okay, that happens. So Rav Makbili's footnote on that Mamrim thing pointed me to the Kesef Mishnah, and I was going to do the Kesef Mishnah, and then I remembered, what else did the Kesef Mishnah write? We should know. If you don't know this, this is a good thing to know this. The Shulchan Arוך. The Shulchan Arוך. Okay, it's Rav Yosef Karo. So I was like, why don't we just go to the Shulchan Arוך? His name is Rav Yosef Karo, and then he wrote the Kesef Mishnah on the Mishnah Torah, and then the Shulchan Aruch on the Beis Yosef on the Torah, and then the Shulchan Aruch as. Is he just from? I don't know where he's from. It's Karo. That's how people spell it, Karo. But yeah, what was it?
No, I was just saying Kesef Mishnah.
Kesef Mishnah. Well, what would that be? It would be doubled silver, right? Because Mishnah for Mishnah Torah, I assume. Mishnah Torah is like the repetition of Torah or the duplication of Torah. So Kesef Mishnah is the silver of the repetition.
Oh,
I guess, yeah. Not Mishnah.
Mishnah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the Shulchan Aruch, which you don't have to get because it's just one halakha here. So here's how he codifies it. I wanted to read the Rambam first to show you what he does differently. So the Shulchan Aruch says, Amar lo aviv hashkini mayim. If a person's father says, bring me water to drink, v'yish lefanav lasos mitzvah overes. And there is a mitzvah that has a deadline, like a time lapse, a passing mitzvah, literally, okay? Kagon, for example, kavuras mace or levaya, like burying the dead or a funeral, okay? As opposed to, let's say, for example, doing tzedakah, like giving tzedakah or whatever, or like, what would be another example of a mitzvah that is not going to lapse? Like that does have a deadline. Oh, there's lots of them. Yeah, so it was a mitzvah that doesn't have a deadline, just to contrast it. I don't think so, right? I mean, well, I guess if a person has a need right now, but let's say find tzedakah, right? Okay, so that doesn't have a deadline. Or intrinsically, anyway. Well, kibud mace, you do have to do. There's right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So is it a complicated example he's giving? Okay, fine. So a mitzvah that you can engage in at any time, like oh man, I thought this was going to help us. Yeah, that has no like concept of a time lapse. That's what we just said, but then we're saying that tzedakah has, well, you're saying tzedakah is time lapsing because like there's a need that needs to be fulfilled.
I guess you don't have mitzvah to, I mean, I guess it's mitzvah to take care of yourself, but like
it's not really a mitzvah. Right? It's not one target mitzvahs. Shchita. Just doing shchita for the heck of it. Okay, right. Doing shchita, right? Someone says, hey, you want to go shecht, right? So that you can do anytime, right? There's no pressing need to shecht now, whereas, okay, fine. Yeah, sure, right. Unless you're going to say that your hunger is going to go away. Yeah, let's do shchita. Okay, fine. So then what's the halacha? If it is possible for the mitzvah to be done by someone else, yasok b'kavod aviv, then you should involve yourself in the kavod of your father. So let's say the burying the dead. If someone else is available to bury the dead, right? I think that's plain shot. If someone else is available to bury the dead, then you should be involved in the honor of your father. Okay, and then the Ramah throws in based on the, oddly enough, okay, it's basically, he quotes the Beis Yosef, who is the same thing as the Shulchan Aruch, but in the name of the Ran. So I guess the Beis Yosef doesn't paskin like this himself. If you had started a mitzvah first, Yigmor, then he should finish the mitzvah. Dehaosik b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah, because one who's involved in a mitzvah is exempt from the mitzvah. So is he saying? Was it from the Gemara that you're doing? Yeah. So the case here then would be if you had, I guess, already started getting the water for your father. Oh no, wait, no. Then. Well, then does he need to say that though? Because if you oh sorry, yeah, right. If you already started doing kibud, sorry, meaning you already started to do kibud hames and no one else could have. Oh, sorry, and other people could have done it, right? Then you should keep on doing kibud hames, and then when you're done, you should go back to your father. Right. Okay. Good. Or but the chiddush though is if you had already right, meaning if you haven't started giving water to your father yet, and you haven't gone to bury the dead. And then the dead could be buried by someone else, you should go to your father. But if you already started burying the dead, then you should finish burying the dead. Or if you already started giving water to your father, then yeah. Okay. The im ein sham acherim lasos, if there's no one else to do it, yasok b'mitzvah, then you should be involved in the mitzvah of yaniach kavod aviv, and then leave aside the kavod of your father. Okay, fine. Mihu, however, im ein zman mitzvah overes, if the time of the mitzvah is not going to pass, like the Shlita example, Yasak b'kavod aviv achkach yaseh mitzvah, then you should be involved in the kavod of your father and then do the mitzvah. Okay, so that's the halacha, right? And it's interestingly enough, it doesn't say what would happen if you started doing Shlita. Right. Well, I guess it depends on what's considered starting shechita, right? Like,
Your mid-saw.
yeah. Well, that, I think that's what kind of referring to is if you're mid-saw, then you can't stop because then the shechita is no good. Yeah. Yeah.
I assume that like if you started to get
It seemed like, right? Because why would the principle be different? Osik b'mitzvah, pater min mitzvah. It doesn't say osik b'mitzvah overis or shelo overis, right? Fine. So that just clarifies the case, I think, from yesterday. And then, so the wedding thing would be an example of a mitzvah overis, according to this, right? If there's no one else who can do it. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just say, hey guys, just text anyone doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Oren.
Is it that you don't have to do that thing? Or sorry, that you do have to do that thing if nobody else can do it, or if nobody else will do it? Like other people could go to the wedding, but they just might not.
No, it seems like no one else will do it.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So I think that takes care of it. Oh, so then now going back to Talmud Torah, right? So what would be the case be? So the Talmud Torah, so going back to the Talmud Torah thing in the Rambam, Hayalafan of Asiyas mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So if you had in front of you, let's say burying the dead and Talmud Torah, if it's possible for someone else to bury the dead, then you should let them do it and not interrupt your learning. But if it's not possible, so then you should do the mitzvah and then go back to your Torah. See, it's funny though, because he does say lo yafsik talmudo. So is it the whole case where he's already involved in his learning? Yeah, because if so, then maybe we should learn the other case that way, where you should interrupt the thing if no one else can do it. Yeah, sounds like right. Lo yafsik talmudo if it's possible to be done by someone else. Being lav, but if it's not possible to be done by someone else, yasem mitzvah yachzal torah would even mean yafsik talmudo and interrupt your learning. Unless you're going to say something funny like it's considered as though you're always involved in Torah. Like, the thing we say about why we only make brachos of Torah once in the morning and then we don't do it every time we do the mitzvah, because it's considered halachically as though once you start learning Torah, you're really involved in learning Torah all day. And it's just like temporary breaks. I think that's like, I think everyone holds, no one holds you make a new brachos of Torah anytime you learn, right? Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like it is a straight up thing that if the mitzvah cannot be done by anyone else, then you stop learning and then do the mitzvah. I think that's plain shot. Say it again? No, I don't think so either. Yeah, I think it's for some reason it's clear when I read the mitzvah of Veris thing. I don't know why. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, that's right. You brought in the shliach thing. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And shliach could be a factor in terms of whether the like if you can appoint a shliach and keep on learning, then presumably you should do that. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. So I think we're done with this issue for now. But now the question is this Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Okay. So I'll tell you how I got here. All right. Where do you recognize the phrase of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam from? The Mishnah. When do we say the Mishnah? When does someone say the Mishnah? Yeah. Every morning after Birkas of Torah, right? So I was like, Rambam wrote a commentary on the Mishnah. Maybe he says it there. Okay. So here, let me actually it should be right here. Take that and pass it down. So it is in the beginning, right after brachos. So we're in Peah 1:1. Okay, so it's actually on Peah, Peah 1. So it's on page Nun Daled. Page Nun Daled. So we'll read the Mishnah first, then we'll read the Rambam's commentary. And this is a good Rambam to know because this is also where he talks about the phenomenon of mitzvos being on l'chavero, which is nice to know. And on page Nun Daled, it should say at the top of the page, Peah, Mesachas Peah Perak Rishon. I think you're going too far. Yeah, here you go. Oh. Okay. All righty. So the Mishnah, his version of the Mishnah says, Elu Devarim she'en lahem shiur. These are the matters that do not have any measurement. Okay, hapea. So leaving the corner of your field, right? So there's no measurement d'oraisa about how much you leave. It could be as big or as small as you want. Vabikurim, first fruits. Re'ayon, which is the korban re'iyah, olas re'iyah, when you go up to Alila Regel. Gemilus chasadim, acts of kindness. The Talmud Torah, okay, and learning Torah. These are the things that you eat their fruits in this world. And the principle, the main part, remains for you in the world to come. Kibud avim, honoring your parents. Gemilus chasadim, acts of kindness. Bringing peace between man and his fellow. The Talmud Torah connected kulam. The Talmud Torah is equal to all of them. Okay, so that's the statement. So presumably, if the Rambam comments on this, then you'll see what he means when he says Talmud Torah is, actually, I should say, Talmud Torah in our Mishnah Torah says it's connected kulam mitzvos. Here, technically, it's saying it's connected kulam, meaning all of the items that were listed. But I think we can assume that there's going to be a relationship between them, that if it's connected all the mitzvos, then it's certainly connected these. Okay, so we're not going to do the commentary on all of it. Just look on that first page, left column, second to the last line, okay? Uperush keren ha'ikr. So keren means the main part. Uperusen is haravachim, is the profits. Okay, like money profits, not Yeshayahu. Okay. The iyun amru ochel mi perosehem, and when it says you eat from their fruits, and the principal amount remains. Humash omer lo. This is lock. This is where it's saying to you. Kol mitzvos nechlakos chaluka rishona l'shnayim. All mitzvos are divisible in a first division into two. Chelik b'mitzvos hamyuchados la'adam ba'atzmo beino uvein Hashem. One category of mitzvos is only for a person himself, between him and God. Kagon hatitis v'ha. I don't know why it says tefillin with a mem, but whatever. Tefillin v'ha-Shabbos v'avodah zarah. V'chelik b'mitzvos hatliyos b'tikinus yechase b'nei adam zeh im zeh.
Maybe it means like tefillah.
Yeah, I thought that also, but that's also weird. Yeah, either way is weird. It's just a weird. I've just never seen anyone spell it with a mem. Okay. Yeah, the other reason what was that?
In Seattle, a lot of people say with the mem.
Tefilim?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Where?
In Seattle. Yeah. Is that what? I don't know. I mean, because the reason why I was gonna, I assume my way, not your way, Yosef, is because what do you call it? It's definitely in Mishnaic Hebrew. The nun and the mem are interchangeable for plurals. Whereas if it's talking about tefillah, then it would be tefillot, you know? So this, yeah. Anyway, so then he says, the other one is mitzvos that are dependent on the relationships between people, zeim zeh, with each other. Kagon ashara al geneva, like the prohibition against theft, v'haona, and cheating, v'hasina, and hatred, v'hanatira, and holding a grudge, v'hatzivu le'el v'zeh, and the commandment to love one another, v'shlo nirame zeh, and to not cheat one another, v'shlo yamod echad mimenu al nezek hasheni, and that one person shouldn't stand over the harm of another. I assume that's samal adam reacha, don't stand over the blood of your fellow. Let's see. Yeah, right. Ulechabed hahorim v'hachachamim, and to honor your parents, and chachamim shehem avos hakol, and the chachamim who are the parents of everyone. I don't know why he's giving so many examples. Im kiyim ha'adam hamitzvos hamiyuchados lo ba'atzmo b'meh shebeinu levein bora'o yesh lo al zeh schar yigmalehu Hashem al kach l'olam haba. So if you do a mitzvah between you and God and your creator, then you'll have reward that God will give you in olam haba. Kamo shenemar b'perek chelek, like we'll explain in chelek. V'im kiyim ha'adam hamitzvos hatluyos b'tikinus yachase b'nei adam zeh im zeh yesh lo al zeh schar l'olam haba al kiyimo hamitzvah. So then, if you fulfill mitzvahs between people, you'll have reward in olam haba over the fulfillment of the mitzvah. V'yasi to'elas ba'olam hazeh lahis nahagus tova im b'nei adam. You'll also have a benefit in this world, in terms of how you conduct yourself well with others. Because if you behave this way and your friend behaves this way, then he will also benefit from this outcome. Okay, so he's saying that there is, according to this, it sounds like bein adam l'chavero is better than bein adam l'makom. In this sense, obviously you can get better reward for certain mitzvos bein adam l'makom, but he's saying that you get a dual benefit bein adam l'chavero because you're also improving society, whereas putting on tzitzis doesn't improve society, directly at least.
You're saying lamakom for
Between you and God.
why
Yeah.
are we using lamakom in this case?
That's how Chazal say it. I don't know why they specifically pick hamakom for that phrase.
Like, I was aware that was a term. that
Yeah.
they used,
And
but
if you look at the places where they use it there. They use it with comforting mourners, hamakom yanachem eschem, may hamakom comfort you. And they also use it in the Haggadah of Baruch Hamakom. But they don't use it that many other places. And it's not a biblical name of God. It's a rabbinic name of
Could it
God.
have any kind of like functional use in this case, as far as like the fact that we're talking about a relationship between man and man, and we're talking about how it improves or has an impact, and it's like, okay, you can have a direct impact, which is man to man,
Mhm.
or you can have an impact on our environment, but it's not direct. It happens to be through Hashem, and so that's like sort of a lamakom idea.
It's very creative. I will point out though that the Rambam did not use the term bein adam l'makom, right? I used it, right? He just says bein adam l'boro or bein adam ba'atzmo. Does he have that word in? Say it again. In the homonyms, he doesn't. He does. Yes, he does. Yeah. The way Rambam. Yeah. The way the Rambam defines it in the more Nevuchim, hamakom is it's an idea of the independent existence that everything is dependent on. I think.
Right.
Yeah. I hear that. I hear the drasha. It's a good drasha.
Just in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a question we have to ask is where that term came from. Like who started using it? Is it I don't even know if Chazal use it. Like I think they do, but now that I'm questioning myself.
I feel like it's abbreviation like that, like more.
Yeah. Okay. So then he says like this,
Right.
which is yes. Oh, sorry, Oren. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Is it the same word as like place, like makom
Yeah.
kavur, like a makom?
Yeah. So the way that Chazal explain it is they say hu makomo sha'olam ve'ein olamo makomo, that God is the makom of the world and the world is not his makom. So the world is not his makom means that God is not in the world, right? There's no location that you can attach to God. So that's the whole Uncle Moshe's wrong when he says God is here, God is there, God is really everywhere, right? Is that God is not anywhere because place is a physical quality. So God is not in a place, but he's the makom sha'olam. He is the makom of the world. And what that means, the best logical term, which no one really uses in everyday conversation unless you're like a logics guy, is substratum, right? Like God's existence is the underlying framework or the thing underlying the existence of something else. Meaning in the same way, like analogously, the makom of this laptop is the table. It is on the makom, held by the makom, existing in the makom, foundation, right? So God is the foundation of existence of all conditional existence. That's how I believe the Rambam explains it, based on that Chazal. Okay, good. That was a good makom review. Okay, v'chol hamitzvos shebein adam l'chavero michlalim bichlal gimulus chasadim. So that's a big move. Okay, when it says gimulus chasadim, he's saying all mitzvos bein adam l'chavero are included in the Mishnah's use of the phrase gimulus chasadim. So when it says that gimulus chasadim don't have a measure, and when it says that gimulus chasadim you consume their benefits in this world, but their principle remains in the world to come. So he's saying that you consume their profits in this world means that there are like societal benefits to doing it, and you get that. But then the essential reward is an olam haba, which means the perfection that you get in your soul somehow. Okay, and that's all mitzvos bein adam l'chavero. He's bonim behem timtzayim, and if you contemplate them, you'll find them. Meaning, you'll look at all those mitzvos and you'll find gimulus chasadim is an accurate description. And then he says, "Hello, Tiri, don't you see? Shehilo hazakin, that Hillel the elder, kashamar lo hagoy lamdini Torah al regel achas, that when the goy said to him, teach me all of Torah on one foot. Amar lo, he says, da'alach b'yesh bish l'chavrach lo tabin. What to you is bad, do not do to your friend." Meaning that's a summary of what do you call it? Of Kol Torah Kula. I don't know why he's saying that that's how's that arrive for the fact that gimulus chasadim is all mitzvos bein adam l'chavero? Well, everything, so including but you could just say though that he was trying to summarize everything, not trying to summarize that bein adam l'chavero is gimulus chasadim. And it's also not phrased in terms of gimulus chasadim, right? It's phrased in the negative, that what is hateful to your friend, don't do to yourself. Yeah. And then there's also Rashi who says, oh no, that's a different Rashi. Okay. But when you investigate, you'll find that Talmud Torah is equal to everything. Maybe that's what Hilchos should have said to the guy. Talmud Torah, right? Tell me all of Torah in one foot. learn Torah,
Well,
right?
so like, yeah, it isn't a negative, but I think one of the things that are hateful to ourselves are someone, or for example, negligence or a lot of negative action.
Right.
Not doing the nice thing for us. And so it's like, well, in other words, yeah, like if that's going to end up leading you to not just negative actions, but actually doing what's decided.
Right. It could, okay. I guess I have two problems. One problem, so is Rambam aside, like if you're just going to summarize all of the Torah. So what's the, Rabbi Akiva's the one who says that v'ahavta l'recha kamocha is like klal gadol b'Torah?
No, that's different from the Rambam.
I know it's a different Gemara, but I'm saying v'ahavta l'recha kamocha is love your fellow as yourself, which would include positive actions and then not doing negative actions.
Right.
So when Hillel was asked to summarize all of Torah, and he just says, just don't do stuff that you don't like, that doesn't imply automatically that I should go out of my way to do stuff that my friend, that I would like. In other words, my question is,
that's why I said negligence. It's like if someone was ignoring me
Right.
and I needed help or I wanted something,
right.
then don't do that, which means we'll couldn't do it. Like don't it's a double negative in a sense. Don't do the thing that you need to that you actually.
You're trying to say that his statement does include doing positive stuff also by way of implication?
Right.
Right. So I'm saying, why not just say, love your fellow as yourself? Because that definitely includes both. Why state it in a way that just makes it sound like refrain from doing bad things to people? Like, even if you're right, even though if logically you're right, first of all, I don't think you're logically right. I don't think just because I'm not like I'm not going to call names or punch people, but that doesn't mean I should go and like make meals for them, like, so.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think it's if you're being genuinely honest with yourself,
Right.
you do want people to do that. You want people.
Right. That's why I'm saying that the summary pasuk should be should be love your fellow as yourself, not don't do to others what is harmful to you.
Well, it's hateful, right?
Well, it's bish. He says bish. You're quoting the one that is the commonly quoted one, right? But I guess the Rambam says Allah bish lechavra. What is sorry? Allah bish lechavra lo tavid. What is bad to you? But let's say even the hateful one. Say what you're going to say for the hateful one, because that's the normal way to state it.
Yeah, I think that's still like ultimately like what you ultimately, I think what we all have is deep resentment deep down, and it's like let's not pretend that it's only about doing these positive things.
Mhm.
Like it's having to acknowledge that it's these things that you would do. You kind of come to accept that they don't. Because It's the way society works.
Yeah.
It's just very much try scratch your back, I scratch my back, or you scratch on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like no, like what you would usually call like, if it's really actually being honest, hateful, then don't do any of that. And so to me, that is like all these things that we don't want to admit, like things that we feel like we're almost how dare you expect someone to do this? It's like no, be daring because that's what you should do for others.
Yeah.
Because if you take that approach of being like, then you'll never even do it. You'll never take the initiative.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I just think that that's I think that's not it's not a straight read of a statement. Like, I don't know.
No, I know it's not.
Right.
It's not. I'm just kind of trying to kind of sort of see like some subtlety in why they would say both.
Yeah, I admire the effort of the interpretation. And just before I call on you, just one other thing also is that if you look at that series of Gemaras there, I believe it is sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Wait a minute. Isn't it oh yeah. If you look at that series of Gemaras there are a bunch of superficial answers that are given.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the goy is asking for like he's not really asking, like when people say al regal achas, sometimes they mean give me a condensed summary, but this al regal achas is like a superficial answer. So in other words, like when Rabbi Akiva is stating a klal gadol, like a universal principle in Torah, there I feel like we have the right to like be medayik, like to unpack, like this reflects all of Torah, or like the Gemara where David Melech takes all Taryag mitzvos and then reduces them to 11, and then they reduce it to 10, and then they reduce it to 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. That's like saying like if you could summarize all of halacha in one thing. This guy was basically like trying to take a shortcut, So like I feel like we dafka have to understand how would this be understood in a superficial way, But then the question is, why is the Rambam quoting it? Yeah, Yosef.
I guess also maybe even should want to do if you're, I guess so as we want to yourself, but the fact is that impossible and the Torah wants something that's possible.
Yeah,
So I was gonna like jump on that too.
Yeah.
Now that you said that, it's almost like entertaining the superficial question. It goes, okay, fine.
yeah,
You only want to do what's at least superficially like right.
right,
Then just don't actually hear. Then do
Right.
that, and that inevitably will lead you.
right.
If you could just master that,
Yeah,
that'll take you to the next step. Of like the lower, it's like a lower year, a higher year kind of thing.
right. Right. So that would fit in with is this the Gemara where he says the rest is commentary and go and learn it?
Right.
Right. So then he's not saying that this is all of Torah. He's saying that this is like the starting point
Right.
from which you go forward. Yeah. Okay. But then I found so this is all nice. Okay. But then I found the gem, which is Ukishatachkor Zos Timso Talmud Torah Shakol Keneged Kulam. You'll find that Talmud Torah is equal to all of them. Kiba Talmud Torah Yeda Ha'adam Es Kol Zeh, because through learning, a person will know all this. Kmo Shebiyarnu Behakdama, as we explained in the intro, Shatalmud Megli De Maisa, that learning brings you to action. And then that's when I remembered, I was like, where does the Rambam talk about this in the intro? That's where he has his discourse on the purpose of human living. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. Okay, now the whole thing is amazing to do if you've never done it, where the Rambam is explaining the midrash of the Koshiesh L'Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Olamo, or Ein Lo L'Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Olamo Ela Dal Amos Shel Halacha, that the only thing God has in his world is the 4 Amos of Halacha. So this is part of that explanation. Okay, so if you go to page Chaf Beis, okay, and I'm sorry I had to use my copy at home that I had apparently highlighted. So if highlighting books makes you disturbed, then avert your eyes.
Highlighting goes very well through a computer.
It does, yes. It's very bright. It looks like an actual highlighter. Yeah. So what did I just say? What page? Chaf Beis. Yeah. Thanks. And I almost don't want to read this midway. I want to do the whole thing, but you'll do that on your own time at some point, or we'll do it in this at some point. Okay. So on the right column, bottom paragraph, the kasher. So what he's just done is he said that everything on earth exists for man. Okay, not the universe, but everything on earth exists for man. And he explains how. Okay, if you're curious, then look there. Once you know that the purpose of all these things is for the purpose of man. Oh, sorry. You see where we are?
No.
Chaf Beis in the same book you were using, not on the
this
packet.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's another one. Okay. So this one.
That one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think no, you're gonna be before.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Just rather. Oh no. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right side, last paragraph. Once you know that the purpose of all these things on earth is the existence of man, then it also we should also figure out why does man exist and what is his purpose? Okay. And when they, I think he's talking about the philosophers, went into depth and investigated this, they saw that man has many activities. All the other plants and animals only have 1 or 2 activities and only one purpose. Right? What is the purpose of a date palm? To produce dates. And same thing with all the other trees. There are with the animals also. Some of them, their only purpose is to weave, like the spiders. And some of them are builders, like the sanuna, which I think is a type of bird. But the footnote 4 says, so it's a bird that builds a nest. What was the sanuna? I used to know what that English word is. And then there are gatherers like the ant. Okay, so these are the activities of these animals. The man does many different things. Therefore, they investigated. What's footnote 5 asterisks? They went into in-depth analysis of kol pu'ulosav, all of man's actions, achas, each and every one, to know what is the purpose of all these actions. And they reached the conclusion that man's activity has one purpose alone. And all of man's other actions are to prolong his existence, which, and in order to perfect that one activity. the singular activity. Vihi, which is hasagas hamuskalos v'yedias ha'amitios aburiam, is to apprehend concepts and to know truths clearly. Okay, so the pursuit of truth, of knowledge, yeah. He lo yitachin shiti et tachlis adam lecho or lishtos or livo or livnos bias or lios melech. It can't be that the purpose of man is to eat and drink and to have sex and to build houses and to be a king. Because all of these things are transient accidents, right? Things that just pass over him. And they don't add to his essence. His essence being the Tzelem Elokim, the thinking part of him. The Ode, furthermore, so that's one reason why these can't be. You couldn't say that the purpose of man is to buy a car, because that has nothing to do with his essence. Yeah. Say again. No, because he's saying that the whole existence of those things is to do that action. Yeah, and that is the essence. Is that what does I mean? Let's. So. Right. So you're asking. Okay. Right. So I think the thing we have to distinguish here, by the way, between the Rambam stating the conclusions that the philosophers reached and then what those arguments actually are. You know, because undoubtedly, I think he's talking about Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, where Aristotle goes through all the arguments in 10 books to demonstrate that this is the case or whatever. You know, he's just saying the conclusions, just like in other words. Yeah. Right. But isn't he just saying? Oh, you mean he's explaining more here than he does by the other animals? Yeah.
It's not showing how it's not accidental.
Right. I mean, I think let's footnote 7 here. Yeah. So I guess the question has to be, what is the Rambam trying to do and what is he not trying to do here? Right. Yeah. But he is. Let's just see what the conclusions are first. Conclusion 1 is that these other activities can't be man's purpose if they are not pertaining to his essence. Right. So the essence is man was created b'tzelem Elokim. So the purpose has to have something to do with that, and eating and drinking and stuff don't have to do with the Tzelem Elokim. You know, the Ode. Whereas I'll give you one argument for the animals and stuff, which is and the plants is, if you look at Bereshis, and this is not a complete argument, but in Torah, God only uses the word tov by species when he talks about them reproducing. Right? He says that they produced similar things after their kind, and God saw that that was good. So like it seems like the reproduction is according to the Torah is the tov. Okay. The Ode, furthermore, shekol ha'pu'ulos ha'ela mishutafos hein lo. All these other activities of eating and drinking and stuff is they are in common to him, ulashar mine ba'alei chayim, and to other animals. Okay. V'hamada hu shemosif b'mahuso umatiko mimatzav l'matzav. But knowledge is that which adds to man's essence and develops him from one level to another. Mimatzav shafel l'matzav nala, from a low level to a higher level. Lefi shahaya adam b'koach v'nase adam b'foal. Because man was only human in potential, and now he is human in actuality. This actually is a good raya for the shiur I gave. Was that?
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the shiur that I gave recently on entitled Adam's demonic spawn, where the Rambam says that Cain and Hevel were not human, right? And he says Shais was the first human child. Now, if you take that literally, then it means that Adam gave birth to animals, and Rambam says no, is that by Shais the pasuk goes out of its way to say that Adam was created b'tzelem Elokim, b'dumus Elokim, and Shais was born in his likeness. And Rambam says it means that Adam educated Shais, whereas he did not educate Cain and Hevel. So you see from there that the Rambam holds that to be a human means not just to be the species, but to have actualized your human quality. Yeah, we're gonna say, Chizkiah?
Well, that was the conversation we had at the dinner.
Oh yeah.
And you know, the question of, we should call, what was it, like at the Holocaust?
Monsters, right?
It's like, and he goes, no, we shouldn't call them monsters, we should call them humans. And I was my response was like, well, actually, really, we should say most people or animals. Is there animals? Like, well, no, most of us are animals,
right? And
very few of us are human,
right? Yeah, that's a good point, right?
And that's, I mean, that's, you know, like I think on a more like metaphysical level, there's like the four, they call it the four levels of desire. You know, like the still, the vegetative, the animal, and then the human level. And each one of those have different aspects of desire that they play out. Even an animate object,
Right.
a very simple, very level, like basic level of desire in a functional sense. Like a just seemingly like their inertia. There's the basic things, but anyway, those things are each tied to like, I think the still level is like a desire to survive, shelter, things like that, and food. And then vegetative is they want the desire to store it, for security. The animal level is the desire for power, which is the ability to get it, you know, at will. And then you have the human level, I think, which is like it's the knowledge, you know, the aspect of this kind of
Desiring to know, right?
right, like,
Yeah.
And so then when you really transcend that, that's like when you like, okay, like now use all those things
Right.
for and this is when it gets into
Right, and that
each other, the love and all that kind of
right,
stuff.
and that's why he's saying that these other things are what join you with these other lower existences, but this is the only thing that is uniquely human. Yeah. So you go from a potential man to an actual man. Because before man learns, he's just like an animal. The only thing that differentiates man from other animals is rationality. Because man is a rational animal. That's the famous Aristotelian definition, right? Chai, animal, bal higayon, who is rational. And by rational, he means grasping concepts. And the greatest concept is the apprehension of God's oneness, the oneness of the Creator, exalted and praised be He. And everything related to this in the divine sciences, in the metaphysics. Because all of the other areas of learning only are there to prepare you for reaching the divine science. And that relates to the Rambam Bekius Torah of Davar Gadol is metaphysics and physics, because those directly help you to have knowledge of God. And then Gemara and all the other preparatory things like math and logics is Davar Katan, because it's just preparatory in nature to train your mind. If we spoke about this at length, it would be very long, or perfectly, it would be very long. Okay, so that's the purpose of man, according to the Rambam, right? Is a knowledge of God, because that adds to your essence, and it is the only thing, and it's the thing that makes you unique. But along with apprehending concepts, we are obligated to reject excess involvement in bodily pleasures. Hagzama means like exaggeration, excess involvement in bodily pleasures. Because it is a self-evident principle, that's a muskal rishon, that the destruction of the soul comes with the building of the body, and the building of the body is at the destruction of the soul. Now, he doesn't mean that anytime you like do something that's good for your body, you're destroying your soul. He means by building the body here, catering to the animalistic part of you, not like becoming healthy or something like that, because he said earlier that that's to sustain your existence. Because if a person were to chase after lusts and to prioritize sensual things, and enslave his intellect to his desire, and to become like animals, like beasts and ostriches. I don't know why I say ostriches. Yeah, I at least that's what the word ya'ini means in Eicha. I don't know if it means something else.
Maybe it's more general. It's more just the general idea of animal, another word for like wild birds.
Yeah, like wild birds. Right. That could be. Yeah. That the only thing that is in their imaginations is eating, drinking, and sex. Then the divine faculty, meaning the intellect, would not be manifest in man. Oh, I love this poetic line. He would then be like isolated matter floating in a sea of chaos. Okay, or floating in a sea of hiuli, of high like matter. You know, that's if you don't actually. In other words, if you don't actualize the part of you that relates to the divine, that is human, so then you're just basically like inert matter floating around in the universe that's just going to be part of the whole cycles of like physical matter. You haven't actualized the non-physical part of yourself. Right. You know. So it is clear from all these introductions ba'olamenu, that the purpose in our world, in this world, b'chol asher bo, and everything in it, who ish melumad bal midos tovos, is a learned man with good midos. And when someone who belongs to this human species acquires knowledge and action, and by knowledge I mean grasping truths clearly, and just knowing everything that's possible for man to know, just check that off the list. And when he says action, is moderation and equilibrium in natural matters, and not being immersed in them, and only taking for them what is necessary for the body, and also perfecting all his midos. A guy like that, that's the purpose. So that's the purpose of human life and of the world. Purpose of the world is to produce man. Purpose of man is to produce people like this. Okay, there you have purpose of man. Okay, now we get to what we were talking about.
People like this.
Produce people like this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is how he says. Is he going to say it here, or did he say it earlier? I think he said it earlier. That's how you can have certain Tanaim. Was it Shimon Bar Yochai and his son, or someone else, that stood on the mountain and said, all of this exists for me? Okay, he didn't mean that like exists for him. He means that the purpose of all of society is to produce human beings who reach their perfection, and he happens to be one of those people, but not like he can like just like gobble up all of your produce or anything.
Right.
All right, last paragraph, and this actually gets to what we were dealing with here. The inyan zeh, this idea, lo noda mipi hanavim bavad, it's not only known through the Nevi'im, ela gam chachmei ha'amim hakadmonim, even the early non-Jewish sages, af shelo ra'u es hanavim, even though they didn't see the Nevi'im, lo shamu divreihem, and they didn't hear of them, unless you hold by the midrash that the Abravanel quotes that Plato and Yirmiyahu had conversations in Egypt. I've only seen that quoted in the Abravanel, but not in any other things.
I think this just does not add up historically.
The timing works out. No, it doesn't work out. It's 100 years late. But yeah, anyway, 200 years late. Yeah, you're right. Timing doesn't work out. Yeah.
Also, which chronology? Like neither of them work out. Which chronology do they work?
I don't know. Anyway, v'lo shamu divrei. I just want an excuse to say that. Can't you tell? V'lo shamu divrei. Kvar yadu she'ein ha'adam adam shalim ela im kolol hamadav hamasa. That they also knew that no human being is perfect unless he encompasses knowledge and action, as he defined it above. V'dai lecha divrei gadol ha'filosofim. It should be enough for you the words of the greatest philosopher. I bet that's Aristotle. What footnote? 41. Is that a typo? Should it be 14? Probably 14, right? Kinir shakvana al Aristo. Apparently the intent is on Aristotle. Okay, fine. So he says, what are the greatest of the philosophers say? Mataras Hashem banu shenihi nevonim tzadikim. God's intent for us is to be righteous understanders. Okay, meaning people who are navon, who have knowledge, and who are righteous, meaning that we're ethical. If a person were wise and understanding but chased after taiva, he's not truly a chacham. Because the beginning of chachma is that a person should not take excess pleasures, bodily pleasures, except to sustain his body. And in our explanation of Pirkei Avos, we'll explain this properly. He's either referring there to the statement of no, he's referring to in that topic in Shmona Prakim, where he says all your actions should be for the sake of heaven, I think. You also find that the Navi rebuked someone who claimed to be a chacham at a time when he was violating words of Torah and chasing his taivas. As they said, how can you say we are chachamim and the Torah of Hashem is with us? If a person were God-fearing in the sense that he were an ascetic or like an abstainer, he abstained from worldly pleasures, he distanced himself from bodily pleasures except what's necessary to sustain his body, and he conducted himself in all natural things on the middle path, and he was accustomed, he had made into second nature all good midos, but he's not learned. Gamzeh chaser shleimus. He's also lacking in perfection. Elash hu yoser shalim in rishon, but he's more perfected than the first guy. That's very interesting, right? This is a big debate, right? Who's better off, the person who has perfected intellect but not midos, or the person who has perfected midos and not intellect? And the Rambam is saying it's the second guy, midos guy, yeah. Because his actions of these are not out of clear knowledge and fundamental recognition. Meaning what? The guy who is learned is not acting based on his knowledge, right? Not the other way around. I mean, right?
No, well, I think both. I think he's saying that the other guy is transgressing even knowing, so it's worse. Whereas this guy, anything he's transgressing, well, it's.
Oh, right. That's not out of knowledge. Correct. Yeah, I think that's better read. And that's why Chazal say someone who's bur, meaning he doesn't have good midos, cannot be fearing of sin. Someone who says that an am haaretz could be a chassid is only undermining or contradicting the words of Chazal, who made a definitive statement about this, right? Ein am haaretz chassid. Someone who's ignoramus cannot be a chassid. And not only contradicting Chazal, you're contradicting rationality. Okay. And now we get to our the gem that we were looking for. That's why you find the mitzvah in all of the Torah to learn them and then to do them. Talmud kodem l'maseh, learning comes before action. Keep a Talmud yavu lidei maseh, because Talmud leads to action. Ve'in hamaseh mevi lidei Talmud, and action does not lead to learning. V'zehu amram alei mashalim she'Talmud mevi lidei maseh. This is what they mean when they say Talmud leads to maseh. So, Oren, this answers your question. When he says that action leads to learning leads to action, does he just mean like knowing the halacha leads to it? So it sounds like he's saying much more than that, right? Sounds like he's saying the ikra of man is to know things and to act based on knowledge, right? And also he's saying that it's funny because in Peah that we read, he said he would explain Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam here, but he doesn't quote that. So, but presumably this is what he means, that the whole sum total of all mitzvos are to perfect you in specific ways, but the full endeavor of man is to be involved in learning. Like that is perfection. You know, in other words, all other mitzvos are avenues to perfection, but Talmud Torah is perfection, and that's why it is connected to all mitzvos. Yeah. There you go.
So what would they say about someone like this? Is some example, like what would they attribute someone who has perfected mitzvos but didn't learn it?
Right.
What would they be like? He just happens to be a very highly refined animal, like
yeah, I think so, right? I think that's
chance, like just an instinct, or
no. Let's say he worked on it, through like training.
Why would he have known to work on that though, if not through?
Oh yeah. So either by chance or let's say his parents raised him that way, you know.
Right.
But yeah, he's a very well trained animal, and he's also a really good potential man. You know, because potential, if you have good midos, you're way better. It's going to be way better, easier for you to
execute what you've learned.
And also once you learn, I guess that's what you just meant. Once you learn, like let's say you have two people who are unlearned. One is addicted to lashon hara, and the other one has worked on his midos to the point where he doesn't say lashon hara, and then they both learn the halachas of lashon hara.
Now you should say lashon hara.
Right.
I already did that.
Exactly right. So the guy who's already habituated himself is going to just fit right in, whereas the guy who hasn't worked on his midos is going to be in conflict. Yeah. Oh, Oren, sorry, yeah.
If you say that knowledge leads to action, how do you square that with the fact that even according to the Rambam, many of the mitzvot are supposed to be actions which lead you to knowledge, the reverse?
Right. Yeah. Good question. Right. So Rambam holds that many of the mitzvahs are to teach you or reinforce philosophical ideas. Right. So isn't that an example of actions leading to knowledge?
It's to reinforce, not to reinforce.
Yeah. So I was gonna say that in the name of the Rambam, but I feel like the Rambam would agree that the Rambam, for example, says, like, let's say like the Rambam holds that there are a lot of mitzvahs that are symbolic, and he says, don't think, like he says, the kelim of the base of mikdash are symbolic to teach you ideas about God and physics and stuff. So he says, don't think that the mitzvahs are there to teach you, for you to derive ideas from the mitzvahs. Is really you get the ideas from learning, and then the actions remind you or bring to awareness of what you know. Yeah.
Isn't that like, I don't know. it even starts off with the whole premise of we're not teaching you anything you don't already know. Only the fact that we
Yeah, Mesilas Yesharim starts off like that. Yeah. But then I would still ask Oren's question, which is that there are definitely mitzvos designed to bring your mind to certain ideas, which you should then learn. So the best example is the mitzvos of Pesach, where the whole thing is you get the kids to ask about those mitzvos, and then through doing the mitzvos, then they start to learn about the ideas, you know? So I have a quick answer, but we can think about it for next time also. My quick answer is, I think what he means is learning by its very nature will culminate in action. You know, like I'm talking about like true learning, where you like it, you know, it's you internalize the ideas. Whereas action per se can stop, and person will not investigate why they're doing what they're doing or what it leads to. So he's saying like as activity, he's not denying that certain actions can lead you to ideas and to learning, but he's saying that categorically speaking, then if you involve yourself in learning, then that will change your actions. Whereas if you involve yourself in action, that's not necessarily going to make you into someone who learns. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like really intelligent, like I have like a different dialogue.
Yeah.
Like you know, that you can't get over, and you know, it's going reality, you know, whatever the wording, like the fact that you know, and they want that even more in the same time.
Right. That's true. So it interferes with the knowledge itself. I don't know about that. No. Maybe I do, but I'm not remembering it. Mississippi River. Yeah. Yeah.
And I tried to figure out how to solve it. And like this guy had like, you know, guy putting out like a legend, or it made it worse.
Yeah.
Temporarily copied, and then worse. The guy who like working on this whole theory of like you have to have like channel that water and like bring it in better. And like you know working like all like the mathematics whatever like exactly right but everything.
Yeah.
And while he was working on it, like a life project, some other guy came up with an idea, but he said it more general way, right? And then this guy was like, no, that's wrong. No, I think I know.
So it interfered with his knowledge. I see. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. That's making me worry though about the answer I gave, because the way you're saying it, which I agree with, is like that wasn't truly learning. You know, I don't want to get into like a no true Scotsman fallacy here of the you know, of like, well, true learning will lead to action, but you know, let's think about it for next time though, just to see if we get any. I do want to move on next time, but like I think like this is an Talmud Torah Connected Kulam is an idea that like is important. So there's probably a lot more to say. Alrighty, until next time, have a good day and a good Shabbos. If I don't talk to you before.
Thank you.
What's the question for next time?